In the secret book of John, there's a teaching that the church is buried so deep that most Christians will never hear it in their entire lives. It's a conversation between Jesus and John, where John asks the question every chosen one eventually asks, "Teacher, why do I wake up more exhausted than when I went to sleep? Why does rest not restore me?" Jesus looks at him and says something the canonical Gospels could never include: "Because you're being harvested at the threshold." The moment between waking and sleeping is when the archons feed, and unless you learn to seal that threshold, they will drain you every single night for your entire life. John asks, "How do I stop it?" And Jesus teaches him a method so simple, so immediate, that the early Gnostics practiced it every night without fail. They called it the threshold sealing. 3 steps, 60 seconds, done before you close your eyes, and the harvest stops. Not gradually, instantly, because the archons can only enter during the transition. If you seal the threshold, there's no door, no entry, no drain. Tonight, you're learning the exact method Jesus taught, not a modern interpretation, not a symbolic teaching, the actual technique, word for word, step by step, so that by the time you go to sleep tonight, the threshold is sealed, and the nightly harvest that's been draining you for years just stops. If you're sealing your threshold tonight, comment "threshold sealed" right now. You need to understand what the threshold actually is, because most people think sleep is a simple binary: you're awake or you're asleep. But that's not how consciousness works. There's a transition state, a liminal zone between waking awareness and deep sleep, where your consciousness is neither fully anchored in your body nor fully withdrawn into the dream state. You're suspended, and that suspension is exactly what the archons are waiting for. In the Pistis Sophia, when Jesus is teaching the disciples about the rulers of the night, he describes this state explicitly. He says, when a human lies down to rest, their awareness begins to pull away from the material body. The silver cord, the energetic thread connecting soul to flesh, begins to loosen. And in that loosening, there is a gap, a momentary opening where the field is unguarded. The archons know this gap intimately. They've studied human sleep cycles for thousands of years. They know the exact moment when your conscious defenses drop, but your energy body is still accessible. That moment is the threshold. And every single night when you lie down and start drifting towards sleep, you pass through that threshold completely unprotected, unless you've been taught to seal it. Here's what happens during an unsealed threshold crossing. You lie down, you close your eyes, your mind starts to quiet, your body begins to relax, and your consciousness starts the natural process of withdrawal. It's pulling inward, moving away from sensory input, preparing to enter the dream state. But during those first 60 to 90 seconds, you're still partially aware. You're not asleep yet, you're hovering. And your energy field, which is normally held in place by conscious attention during waking hours, starts to become fluid. The boundaries soften, the defenses are lower, and that's when they come. The archons don't need to break through walls when you're awake. They just wait for you to open the door yourself. And every night, when you cross the threshold without sealing it, you're opening the door wide and walking away. They slip in during that transition. They attach to your energy body while you're hovering in the liminal state. And once you're fully asleep, once your conscious awareness is deep in the dream realm, they feed. They siphon your life force. They harvest your emotional energy. They drain your vitality, and you wake up the next morning feeling like you didn't sleep at all. You feel heavy, foggy, depleted. You assume it's stress. You assume it's poor sleep quality. You assume it's your mattress or your schedule or your health, but it's none of those things. It's the nightly harvest, and it's been happening every single night since you were born, because no one ever taught you how to seal the threshold. The reason this teaching was suppressed is because it's too effective. If the church had allowed Christians to know that a 60-second practice done before sleep could completely block demonic interference during the night, the entire system of nighttime spiritual warfare would have collapsed. They built prayers, they built rituals, they built the concept of spiritual attack and demonic oppression into a framework that required priestly intervention. You needed exorcisms. You needed blessings. You needed someone with ecclesiastical authority to protect you from the forces of darkness. But Jesus didn't teach that. He taught self-sealing. He taught chosen ones that they have the authority and the ability to close their own thresholds, that they don't need a priest. They don't need holy water. They don't need anything except awareness and intention. And 60 seconds before sleep, that teaching made chosen ones autonomous. It made them unreachable. And the church couldn't control people who were unreachable. So they buried it. They removed every reference to threshold sealing from accepted scripture. They scrubbed it from the teachings, and they replaced it with prayers that don't work and rituals that don't seal. Because those prayers and rituals keep you dependent. They keep you coming back. But the original method Jesus taught doesn't require anyone but you, and it works the first time you use it. Here's the method. 3 steps. 60 seconds total. You do this lying in bed after the lights are off, after you settled into position, right before you would normally start drifting towards sleep. The first step is called threshold recognition. You're going to bring your awareness to the exact state you're in right now. You're awake, but your body is relaxed. Your mind is starting to quiet. You're on the edge of sleep, but you haven't crossed yet. This is the threshold, and the first step is simply recognizing that you're standing at it. Most people never notice this moment. They lie down, they close their eyes, and they drift. They cross the threshold unconsciously. They don't realize they're in the liminal state until they're already past it and into dreams. But you're going to stay conscious of it. You're going to hold your awareness right here at the edge, not trying to stay awake, not forcing alertness, just gently noticing that you're in the transition. That's all the first step is. Awareness. I am at the threshold. I see it. I'm here. That recognition alone changes everything, because the moment you're aware of the threshold, you're no longer crossing it unconsciously. An unconscious crossing is what the archons require. Conscious crossing, where you see the door and choose how you move through it, is something entirely different. The second step is the sealing declaration. This is where you speak, not out loud unless you're alone. You can speak it silently in your mind, but you speak with intention, with clarity, with the authority of someone who knows what they are. The words are these: I seal this threshold in the name of the monad. No entity may enter. No harvest may occur. I cross in sovereignty and I will wake in sovereignty. That's it. 12 words in the core declaration, expanded slightly for clarity, but the essence is, I seal this threshold. No entity may enter. You're not asking for protection. You're not praying for safety. You're declaring a boundary. You're stating a law. And here's why this works. The archons operate on consent. They can't violate sovereign will when it's clearly stated. They rely on unconsciousness, on implied consent, on you not saying no. But the moment you declare the threshold sealed, the moment you say no entity may enter, you've removed consent, and without consent, they have no access. The declaration works because you're not fighting them. You're not banishing them. You're simply stating the terms of your crossing, and those terms are non-negotiable. The third step is the breath seal. After you've spoken the declaration, you take 3 deep, slow breaths. Each breath is a sealing act. On the first breath, you breathe in slowly through your nose, and as you breathe in, you visualize light filling your entire body from your feet to your crown. Not a vague sense of light. Actual visualization. See it. Gold light, or white light, or blue light. Whatever feels true to you, it fills your body completely. Then you exhale slowly, and as you exhale, you visualize that light expanding outward from your skin, forming a shell around your body, about 6 inches out in every direction. That shell is the seal. It's the boundary. On the second breath, you breathe in again, and you see the light inside your body growing brighter, denser, more concentrated. Then you exhale, and the shell around you thickens. It becomes more solid, less permeable. On the third breath, you breathe in and you hold the awareness that you are the light. You're not filling yourself with something external. You are the light. It's your nature. It's what you're made of. And then you exhale and the shell locks. It seals completely. It becomes impenetrable. And that's it. 3 breaths. 30 seconds. The threshold is sealed. And now, when you drift into sleep, when your consciousness withdraws and your awareness moves into the dream state, the archons cannot follow. The door is closed, the boundary is set, and you cross in complete protection. The first night you do this, you will notice a difference, not subtle, obvious. You'll wake up and the heaviness will be gone. The fog that you've woken up with every morning for years just won't be there. Your mind will be clear. Your body will feel rested. Not perfect necessarily, because your physical body might still need recovery from years of being drained, but you'll feel the difference. You'll know something changed, and that knowing is important, because once you've experienced one night of sealed threshold sleep, once you've woken up without the drain, you'll never want to go back. You'll practice this method every single night without fail, because the contrast is undeniable. Chosen ones who start using the threshold method report the same thing. Within 3 days, their energy stabilizes. Within a week, they feel more rested than they have in years. Within 2 weeks, they start noticing their dreams change. The chaotic, exhausting, fear-based dreams that were actually archon manipulations during sleep stop happening. Dreams become coherent, meaningful, restorative instead of draining, and within a month, they realize something they didn't expect. They're not just protecting themselves during sleep, they're reclaiming energy that was being stolen. That energy is now staying with them, and they're using it during the day. Their focus sharpens, their motivation increases, their emotional resilience strengthens, all because they stopped the nightly leak. Here's what most people don't realize about sleep drain. It's cumulative. Every single night that you cross the threshold unsealed, you lose energy. Not a lot, just a little, but it adds up over weeks, over months, over years. You're operating on a fraction of the vitality you're supposed to have, and you've normalized it. You think this is just what being human feels like: tired, heavy, struggling to get through the day, needing coffee, needing stimulation, needing external energy just to function. But that's not your natural state. That's the state of someone being harvested every night. Your natural state, the state you're designed to operate in, is full, energized, clear. You should wake up feeling alive. You should move through the day without crashing. You should go to sleep because your body needs rest, not because you're collapsing from exhaustion. And the threshold method restores that. Not because it gives you new energy, because it stops the drain. It keeps your energy with you. And when your energy stays with you, instead of being siphoned every night, everything changes. The archons fear the threshold method more than almost any other practice, because it's preventative. Most spiritual protection techniques are react. You feel an attack, you respond. You sense interference, you banish it. But the threshold method stops the attack before it starts. It closes the door before they knock. And that's devastating to their system, because the nightly harvest is one of their primary feeding mechanisms. They've relied on it for millennia. Humans lie down. Humans cross the threshold unsealed. Archons feed, repeat every night. Billions of humans. Endless supply. But when chosen ones start sealing their thresholds, when they stop crossing unconsciously and start crossing with sovereign protection, the archons lose access, not just to one person, to every person that person teaches. Because this method spreads, chosen ones practice it. They feel the difference. They tell other chosen ones, and the harvest network starts collapsing, one sealed threshold at a time. The church couldn't allow this teaching to survive because it undermined their entire framework. If Christians knew they could protect themselves with 60 seconds of conscious practice before sleep, what would they need priests for? What would they need nighttime prayers for? What would they need the institutional church's protection for? The answer is nothing. And an autonomous Christian is a Christian the church can't control. So they removed the teaching. They buried it in apocryphal texts. They scrubbed it from the canon, and they replaced it with bedtime prayers that sound protective but don't actually seal anything. Prayers that ask for protection instead of declaring boundaries. Prayers that position you as helpless and in need of divine intervention instead of sovereign and capable of self-sealing. Because helpless people stay dependent, and dependent people stay controllable. But Jesus didn't teach dependence. He taught authority. He taught chosen ones that they carry the same power he carried, that they have the same access to the monad he had, and that they can seal their own thresholds without needing anyone's permission or blessing or ritual. That's the teaching the church erased, and that's the teaching you're reclaiming tonight. There's one more layer to this that most people miss. The threshold method doesn't just protect you during sleep, it trains you to be conscious during transitions, and life is full of thresholds. Every time you move from one state to another, From one environment to another, from one emotional frequency to another, you're crossing a threshold. And most people cross every threshold unconsciously. They walk into a room and absorb the energy there without noticing. They shift from calm to anxious without seeing the moment it happened. They move through their entire day crossing threshold after threshold, completely unaware, completely unprotected. But when you practice the threshold method every night, when you train yourself to recognize the liminal state and consciously seal it, you start applying that awareness to waking life. You start noticing transitions. You start seeing the moments where your field is open, and you start sealing those moments too. You walk into a crowded space, and instead of absorbing everyone's chaos, you recognize the threshold and you seal. You feel your emotions shifting, and instead of being swept away, you recognize the threshold and you seal. You're no longer moving through life as an open system that everything can enter. You're moving as a sovereign system that chooses what enters and what doesn't. And that shift in how you navigate reality is worth more than just better sleep. It's a complete recalibration of how you exist in the world. Tonight, before you go to sleep, you're going to practice the threshold method. You're going to lie down, settle into position, and wait until you feel yourself starting to drift. That's the threshold. You'll recognize it. Your body relaxed, your mind quieting, the pull towards sleep just beginning. And in that moment, you're going to stay conscious. You're going to speak the sealing declaration. I seal this threshold in the name of the monad. No entity may enter. No harvest may occur. I cross in sovereignty, and I will wake in sovereignty. Then you're going to take 3 slow breaths, and with each breath, you're going to visualize the light filling you, surrounding you, and sealing you. And then you're going to let yourself drift into sleep, consciously, protected, sovereign. And tomorrow morning, you're going to wake up differently. Not because I told you this works, because you'll feel it. The drain will be gone. The fog will be gone. And you'll know, not believe, know, that the nightly harvest just stopped because you sealed the door, and the archons can't enter where they're not permitted. If you're practicing the threshold method tonight, do 3 things right now. First, the common threshold is sealed below. Declare your protection. Claim your sovereignty. Second, subscribe to Divine Codes, because advanced threshold techniques and waking state sealing practices are coming. Third, like this video, other chosen ones discover that the nightly drain isn't inevitable, that Jesus gave them a method to stop it, and that they can reclaim their energy starting tonight. Do all 3 now. Then tonight, when you lie down to sleep, remember the 3 steps. Recognize the threshold. Speak the declaration, seal with 3 breaths, and cross into sleep as a sovereign being, not as someone being harvested. The archons have been feeding on you every night for your entire life. Tonight that ends. Not because you fought them, because you closed the door. And once the door is closed, once the threshold is sealed, they can't touch you. You're untouchable. You're sovereign. And you will wake in the morning with your energy intact, your mind clear, and your body restored, because the harvest stops tonight. The threshold is sealed, and you're finally crossing into sleep the way Jesus taught the chosen ones to cross: protected, aware, untouchable,